considerate and act on Resolution 2015-2, November 2014 financial report. Mike Wayne, you want to address this?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor and Commission, in your packet is the financial report for the month of November. We could go quickly over the general fund summary that's also in your packet. You'll see that I've noted that the gross receipts we did receive in December. The December report indicated that we're still down 1.2988%, which equates to about a little over $18,000. So at the end of this week, we'll receive the January report. And we're really hoping to see an increase in the GRT, which would be a result of any holiday activity and some of the projects that we're finishing up in late fall. So I'll have that report at the end of the week, and we'll go over it at our financial advisory committee meeting next week. And then I'll have the December report after next week. Also, I did note that October and November are typically the months when the city's general fund ending cash balance is the lowest during the year. So you can see that our available cash after the 1/12th reserve and also the designated street improvement money was only $108,437. So this month we did get a small check in December for property tax. I think it was about $60,000, and so we'll get the larger check towards the end of this month. So that'll put us at a more comfortable level as far as our cash flow. And I noted that. And then as far as, any large purchases, we have discouraged department heads until after January 1st. So anything that was budgeted, they can discuss that with the city manager going forward as to the need for those purchases. I have received, and we are caught up on all of our grant reimbursements for the JJAC grant. Depot grant, I still have one outstanding, but I should be getting that soon. So those will be reflected in the December report. Other than that, we have some adjustments that we've made in the month of December. Now that we've received the grant funds for like the COPS grant and the JJAC grant, which those salaries are paid out of the general fund and then reclassified to the special revenue once the funds are received. So those particular departments will be closer within their operating budget once those adjustments have been made. So other than that, was there any specific questions that anybody had?
The only question I have, on the COPS grant, we received revenues, already budgeted revenues of $42,392.80. And we're projecting expenditures of $62,081.20.
The revenues included the outstanding June reimbursement request, and it was like $13,000. I think I made a note of that. It was $13,066. So the revenues include that in the budget.
Right, because it was payable.
Outstanding payable period.
But the expenditures are more than the revenues, and so where do we get the rest of the money to cover the grant?
I think if you add the 51,607.20 and the 13,66, that equals 64,673.
I'm sorry, which figures are you saying? I only see one for revenues.
Under Fund 223, the adjusted budget will be $64,673.20.
Right.
Excuse me. And if you add the 51,607.20, which is the expenses, and add the 13,66, I believe that equals.
Yeah, you're in balance. But on the adjustment, it's 42 and 62. The last column.
Oh, I see what you're saying. think it's just the way that the adjusted amounts worked out. But like I said, we're still in balance after the adjustment is made.
Yeah, yes, you are. I agree with that.
So I guess is the 94,000 minus the 41, is that not correct, maybe? I need a calculator.
I don't know.
Check that.
I didn't either. I just noticed we had more expenditures than we had revenue. So the residual would come out of the police fund someplace?
No, there shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be a difference.
No.
Okay, well, we'll have to,
So I can double check the math on that.
okay.
I think I was just looking more at the end result, and it seemed to be in balance. So maybe that last column, the figures might not be tallying up correctly.
That might be, there may be a negative that's put in there as a positive.
Was there anything else?
Do we,
And that, all of those budget adjustments are for 2014? Are they for 2015?
No, for the current fiscal
For
year.
2015.
Actually, I think we're still on the
Yeah,
financial
we've got-
report.
yeah,
there are
so,
two different resolutions.
If there's no further questions, I would just recommend approval of the November financials.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve resolution 2015-02, approval of the November 30th, 2014 financial report. I'm taking that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2015-02, November 2014 financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Madam Mayor, if there aren't any other questions with resolution 2015-03, budget adjustment number 5 for fiscal year 15, I make a motion that we approve such resolution.
Second.
If this is 2015, how can it be a budget adjustment number 5? I'm confused.
Fiscal year.
I keep them in order, starting with July through June.
Oh, that's
So
right.
this would be the 5th budget adjustment
That's all right.
for
I'm
this
thinking,
fiscal year.
I'm thinking
Now
January.
the
Instead of June,
resolution,
I'm
the
sorry.
resolution number sequence did start over with beginning with 1. so-
Right, I'm thinking it's the beginning of the year instead
Yeah.
of the middle of the year.
So since July, this would be number 5.
Yes.
I have a comment on, are we through with the budget thing? I have a comment on the budget that the city, and this is kudos to the city and to Michael Ann, that if you'll see in the additional notes where she explains the gross receipts tax is down, and as a result, any large purchases will not be approved until after January 1st. I think that's very sharp of you to take care of that so that, to keep us in tow and not spending any extra money, so.
And I think historically, we've always done that, just because of the cash flow with not getting the property tax until mid-year. So if we continue to build the reserve, that wouldn't be as big of an issue. But until we can accomplish that, I'm sure that our city manager would continue that policy.
Kudos.
I believe we still need a vote on the
Right, you
motion.
do.
Okay.
Well, did we have the motion? Did we
I
have the
made a motion.
You made a
I
motion,
seconded.
I seconded. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Ah.
It's the first of the year.
That's what I'm thinking, but it isn't, it's the middle of the year.
This is true.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2015-03, the budget adjustments number 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on RFP number 2014-11-10, award of engineering service contract. Mr. Berry?
Mayor and Commission, if I could talk about this, as far as professional services go in New Mexico, a little bit confusing, but I'll go through that real quickly. What the procurement code of the state of New Mexico says is it's a qualification-based selection process. So we asked for qualifications from interested vendors. We did get 7 responses, and then you need to rank and rate those proposals. So a committee was formed to perform that ranking rating, and Jason Phillips is here tonight to represent or answer any questions you might have as far as that process. But how that goes is then the highest ranking firm will be offered a contract. Now, what we anticipate, because this is an on-call year-round services contract, it's not for a particular project, is that we would have a contract that basically states that a project will be identified by task order, and the task order will detail the cost and the scope of work. So it will be a general services contract, and we don't have that contract to award today. So the action that we're taking is to consider the recommendation of the committee as far as the highest ranking firm, and then offer the contract to them, and then come back to you all once that contract is negotiated. Now, you will not see prices in there other than probably an hourly rate schedule. But the contract will handle all the other contractual terms. So we would anticipate trying to move fairly quickly on this, get back to you at the next meeting for the next step, which would be approval of that. But your action tonight would be offering the contract to the highest rated firm. Now, we have a number of projects that we would like to move fairly quickly with as far as this engineer goes. So we would try to get that right back to you for your approval, and then we would generate that task order. And as a matter of fact, we would probably anticipate consideration of task orders immediately following the agreement at the next meeting. So we do have Mr. Phillips on hand. He'll give you a brief synopsis of the outcome of the evaluation and answer any questions for you.
Mayor and Commission, as Mr. Berry said, we did have 7 firms, which is a pretty competitive process for a town of our size. In alphabetical order, those firms were Advisory Inspection and Operation Company, Dennis Engineering Company, Engineering Analytics, Larkin Group New Mexico Incorporated, Bowles and Corbin and Associates, Souder Miller and Associates, as well as Wilson and Company. 4 of those firms have worked for us in one capacity or another in the past. Advisory and Inspections, Dennis Engineering Company, and the Larkin Group have not worked in any capacity that I'm aware of. An evaluation committee was formed consisting of myself, Dan Campbell, Waterworks General Manager, and Commissioner Chavez. We advertised it in accordance with state statute, received proposals on January 5th, and the committee individually ranked and rated those proposals. The result of that was a unanimous selection of Engineering Analytics for recommendation of award. This is after taking into account part of the request for proposal process allows New Mexico resident firms and New Mexico resident veteran-owned firms to be allowed percentage points. So the evaluation committee ranks them based solely on the proposal. As procurement manager, I determine whether they qualify for the preference and add those points to the total. But the outcome is that Engineering Analytics was the #1 ranked firm on all 3 ballots. There was a little jockeying and a little dissension on 2nd, 3rd places that were insignificant between the various members. But we would recommend that we attempt to enter into a contract with Engineering Analytics. For those of you that don't know, they were previously a firm based solely in Fort Collins, but have opened an office in Raton with a highly qualified professional engineer, 6 blocks from City Hall.
Thank you. See, anyone have any questions for Mr. Phillips?
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a recommendation that we accept the engineering services contract and act on the RFP 2014-1110
For the engineering analytics.
for the engineering analytics.
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second to award the engineering service contract to engineering analytics. Can we have a roll call vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Segunda,
Yes.
Commissioner Schuster,
Yes.
Commissioner Giacomo,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Nance.
Yes. Motion passes. Deliberate and act on 2015-04, sponsorship of a recreational trails program application and maintenance commitment. Mr. Berry?
Mayor and Commissioners, staff did see an opportunity to apply for some grant funding. What we anticipate is that what we would propose is reconstruction or resurfacing of existing trails that are in the area of the Aquatic Center or the Roundhouse Memorial Park area. We anticipate applying for a total project amount of about $50,000. And with this resolution, we would commit to 14.56% of that amount. Jared Chatterley and Jason Phillips have been working to get the application together. It would be due at the end of the week. And Jason is available to discuss any particulars or questions you may have on the project or the grant application. The resolution is a requirement of the grant application.
Thank you.
Just for a little background, this is a resurfacing project of the trail system at Roundhouse Road. Those trails were originally constructed under a former iteration of the same program that's since changed names over the years. The estimated funding that we felt comfortable going for amounts to the $50,000. City share somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,697.50. It would be a phased project that would accomplish about 50% of the trail structures with a new asphalt surface 1.5 inches thick, some crack sealing and application of tack coat. Some of the prep work would be done by public works staff to keep this project cost down to something that we could bid. It is a federal-based flow-through project, so it does have full federal project requirements. Jared is mostly responsible for the bulk of the application. I've just kind of jumped in to help with the DOT section. It's a good way to get bang for our buck, even in the toughest times. To leverage 7,000 against 43 just makes a lot of sense at this point.
And you say it will do half of the trip?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then are you anticipating writing another grant to do the other half?
Yes, we have developed a map of phase 1 and 2 of the project where we would subsequently come back in fiscal year 2018 federal year and apply for phase 2 to complete it.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I would add that from our observation, the trail is very popular. We see a lot of people
yes.
using it and walking all times of the day. It's getting a little age on it. We're observing, some of that transverse cracking pretty wide, somewhat possibly a tripping hazard. Will be required to maintain it. So we see an opportunity here to get some help on that.
And it's a statewide open process. In the past, they were a lot more regionalized, a lot easier to get. It's going to be competitive. We'll be lucky to be funded, but we're optimistic that we will.
Okay, all right. Have you ever considered doing a strip outside of the trail, maybe 6 inches or 12 inches, where the soil is actually sterilized so that we don't have the weeds invading the path?
That would make a lot of sense to use some kind of herbicide that would knock that down permanently or put, even the mulch that we generate at the transfer station might be a good way to prohibit some of
Yeah.
that weed growth, and we have some of that on hand.
It would be more attractive too. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to accept the sponsorship of the recreational trail program with application and maintenance commitment.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the sponsorship of a recreational trails program application and maintenance commitment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. City managers report?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Myself and the staff have been in the process of evaluating the traffic control light that's located in the area of the post office at Park Avenue and South Third Street. I know that the commission has discussed that prior to my time here, and since I've been here, I have got a lot of comments on that traffic light. And the issue is that it will not change for approximately 2 minutes, and we don't really see probably enough traffic at that intersection to warrant having that traffic light there. So we have proceeded with de-energizing the traffic control light, and ultimately we'll remove it and replace it with stop signs. And so anytime that we have a change in traffic control, we do want the public to understand the change, because any potential change can catch somebody off guard. If you're looking for the traffic light and it's not there, and you've seen it every morning, so the public notification is important in this case. How we've arranged it is, there is a stop sign if you are northbound or southbound on South Third Street. If you're eastbound or westbound on Park Avenue, that is not controlled. So the traffic would stop if you're northbound or southbound, give the right-of-way to the eastbound, westbound traffic, and then make their traffic movements. So in our conversation, this is the safest outcome for that intersection. The problem that we notice with the traffic control light is, if you have to sit there for 45 seconds or a minute, that's a very long time. A lot of people will just run the light. So that's a dangerous situation that we want to correct, in addition to being just really frustrating for a lot of people, judging by the comments that I have received. The four-way stop was considered. It's been mentioned as well. And we think that the two-way stop is the safer solution, because what you see sometimes with the four-way stop is two drivers will pull up essentially at the same time, and maybe we're not clear on who has the right-of-way or how we go. So you see drivers edging out, motioning to each other, and sometimes running into each other. So we made the judgment that this configuration would be the safest way to go. We, of course, will observe that process down there and ensure that it is. But we do plan on removing the light. For now, it's just de-energized. So I can take any questions on that one if we want to have a discussion on that, but that's what we have enacted. We wanted to wait till after the holidays before we did this, and so we have worked on that this week. I think we actually have 2 stop signs in the east or in the north-southbound direction, just to make sure that everyone sees it and gets used to it. So for the time being. As far as activities of our public works, we've really combined public works, building crews, and parks on some projects because of the weather. So a combination of building and parks have been painting the interior of public buildings. They've been working in the police office, the police department most recently. Public Works has been applying gravel to various alleys. Up till this week, they had worked on alleys in the East Cook area and placed 365 yards of the crushed concrete in those alleys. And then this week, they're working in a different area. So on the nice days when we don't have snow or ice to contend with, that's what we're primarily working on. I would like to say that Larry Berg, a member of our sanitation crew, did receive his recycling certification. So Mr. Berg will be helping us out at the recycling center, and it's nice to have additional personnel certified, which is a requirement of our plan. I would then lead into last Friday's weather event. We did have an ice storm, and the emergency services report to me that we had at least 5 serious slips and falls that were transported. Lots of less serious slips and falls, lots of car accidents. Our crews applied about 20 tons of ice melt to areas. That's about a semi-load of snow melt material on Friday. And what we observed is, after a couple hours, that freezing fog would then recoat all of that. So we worked throughout the day, but really tough to contend with that. And a lot of those slips and falls were right at home on the front porch. So we took a day to try to control that. We did conduct a pre-construction meeting on the First Street water line project. That will probably go when the weather gets a little warmer in March or April. The contractor is K.R. Swordfeeder from West Pueblo. They came down and we had the meeting with Dan Campbell and Raton Waterworks. Right now we're reviewing submittals on material, getting all of those approved, and that work will start in the beginning of spring. That will lead into resurfacing of First Street under our MAP program following the waterline project. We have also had discussion with Greg Heitman at Federal Highway Administration about the multimodal project. We are waiting for a concurrence from Mr. Heitman in regard to rebidding that project. As you know, it was bid in September and was approximately $400,000 over budget. We have given a proposal to Mr. Heitman, and we think we can essentially build a full project for the available funds. So we would try to get that out and then bring it to the commission full award and be in construction on that project in the spring also, and we would anticipate completion of that in 2015. I would like to mention volunteers that worked at the Recycle Center on the first Saturday in January, and present at the Recycle was Nancy Poe, Martha Ann Thompson, Julia Stafford, and Steve Wyberg. So I'd like to give some recognition to those people. I have concluded a rather lengthy process of evaluating candidates for the position of Chief of Police. That process is now done, and I have hired John D. Garcia as the new Chief of Police in Raton. John joined the Raton Police Department in March of 2004. He's held positions of patrol officer, lieutenant, captain, and he served as interim chief since June 1st of 2014. John is a 4-year veteran of the Air Force. He was stationed at Tinker Air Force Base, where he studied military law. And prior to coming to Raton Police Department, he did serve at the Springer Police Department. He is a certified officer graduate of New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy. Actually has a lot of certifications under his belt, and I'm very happy to announce that John Garcia is our new Chief of Police. So I'd like to That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before this body? Seeing none? We have one. I'm sorry, Michael.
I went ahead and real quickly made that correction, so the one that Tricia has you sign will be correct.
Okay.
And then there's copies for you, and it should be
Just
a
a-
negative,
Okay.
and then it's, so thank you for catching that. Is that what that is?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you. Is there any other business to come before this body? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.